Today we're joined with Canadian rapper, spoken word artist Baba Brinkman, who joins me from New York. Unlike most mainstream rappers, Baba Brinkman's music is a bit more unorthodox. That is, in his music, Baba delves into a wide array of informative and complex topics such as science, literature, vaccines, public health, evolution, climate change, sustainability.
Information density, unbeatable in this industry. Mince meat made out of classical rap tendencies. So pick your favorite synonym for supreme. Eminence, excellency, call it indefinite.
Welcome to the show, Baba. You talk about some really complex and intellectually stimulating subjects matters in your raps. What made you choose this medium, by that I mean rapping, to convey your messages?
Well, I guess I chose rap before I had a message, because I was just a fan, and I was a teenager, and I was in love with the art form, and I was a hip-hop head, and I was like, you know, nothing more fun than a live rap show and a crowd throwing their hands up and call and response, and I just loved the records. And I also saw it as, you know, potentially a very powerful medium to get any message across. I felt like rappers really had a platform, and their voices were being heard. And so, I mean, this is when I was like 18, 19, like, what am I going to do with my life? And I thought if I got good at rapping, that would help me bring big ideas, good ideas into the world and make the world a better place, I guess, is my idealistic vision when I was younger. And so, you know, it took me a while to get around to which topics. And you know, probably about 10 years ago, I was like, science, the most interesting stories are coming out of science labs, the things that are going to change the world, change our understanding of our place in it, and how human well-being can unfold in the future. We need to understand science and you know, not be afraid of it because of its potential for good. So I decided to be like a science communicating rapper. That's the message that I landed on. Didn't necessarily have to go that way, but here we are.
Now, being a science rapper, what's your writing process like?
Usually kind of analogous to writing essays in college or in grad school. Like, I do a review of the literature. I'll read peer-reviewed articles. I'll read popular science books. I'll read, you know, just Scientific American style science journalism. Get the take on like how the public conversation is engaging with this idea, and then try to find a hip-hop angle for it or reference some pop culture or musical trope that can kind of serve as a hook to get people into it. But yeah, like really, I'm trying to absorb the literature as much as I can, then write the lyrics. And then usually I have a science consultant as well. I'll have like a professional researcher that I've recruited in advance, or that commissioned the piece, or, you know, has just agreed to serve as my advisor. And I call what I do peer-reviewed rap, because I really don't put something out until I've had a gut check on the lyrics by someone that really knows about the research. And then, you know, then I can say I speak for the scientific consensus on this topic, such as it may exist.
Now, using the word peer-reviewed, that would imply that you are one of their peers. So wouldn't that be rappers critiquing your work instead of scientists? Unless you had that kind of background. Sorry, I'm just wondering.
Well, I mean, in that context, it's a double entendre, right?
Yes.
Like, in a sense, rap is peer-reviewed because your rap peers tell you if they think it's good or not, and if it falls flat, then, you know, people are not going to be shy about being like, you suck. So that's a form of peer review. But in science, the technical peer review process is about people who have firsthand experience with the literature and the research tell you whether they feel like the understanding you're presenting contradicts any of the known evidence. So, you know, I aim for both. I want my music to be peer-reviewed by my fellow rappers who will recognize the musicianship, by fans who will enjoy it, and also by scientists who can back me up and say, yeah, like, this is factually accurate to the best of our knowledge. And as far as I'm concerned, those are all important forms of peer review.
Have you considered getting a scientific background, for example, going to school for anything specific to become a peer of the scientific field?
Well, I do have a master's in comparative literature, so I was a humanities person. You know, there's the classic divide in the universities between like the arts departments and the science departments.
Yes.
I'm kind of like a traitor to my cause because I have a full-on humanities and literature background as a scholar and could have, gone on to what do you even do with an English degree? I guess teach English or be a writer or work in publishing or something. But no, I crossed the aisle, and I don't know if I would go back for a PhD at this point. Maybe in science communication or like in education. Philosophy of education would be interesting, because I've developed this whole series of albums and shows that now are used by scientists and by educators. Like high school teachers and college teachers play my videos for their students and say, here's what we'll be talking about in class, and here's a fun angle on it. So, the education side, I would be more interested in studying. Am I actually going to go back and get a full-on science PhD at this point? Probably not. I'm in my 40s. I've got a pretty fun lane that I get to. It's like a food chain, right? I consume scientific literature, but I don't produce scientific literature. I just run it up the flagpole in a way that it wouldn't otherwise get heard.
So when you're finding your stories to rap about, I know that you're mentioning that you look in Scientific America and different publications, but have you considered talking to students doing their master's degrees and seeing what they're working on and for their final assignments? Have you considered that? Or is it only what's already been published in different publications?
I try to communicate research findings. And rather than sort of hypotheses or speculative investigations. So, I've focused more on the working academics and professor level in terms of what I'm communicating. But I recently just got my first gig, which is happening next week, which is a PhD thesis defense. And so this is a postdoc. This is a PhD who's, I think her field is astrophysics and the search for exoplanets. And I am going to attend the thesis defense with her advisors. And then when they announce her as a newly minted PhD, I will have a rap that I've composed that's like a summary of her research that I'm going to then kick and make a video about, and then she can share it as part of her public outreach. So it does apply. It kind of applies at all levels. The popular sort of dance your PhD phenomenon, we're taking that to rap your PhD.
That's beautiful. I know that you're talking about your rapper peers, and so where do you get your inspiration from? From those peers? Who really inspired you from a young age?
You mean to get into rap in the first place?
To get into rap in the first place, yes.
I got this mixtape when I was probably 11 or 12, and it had Eric B. and Rakim and Slick Rick and Run DMC and the Beastie Boys and KRS-One. KRS-One's track My Philosophy, which had a real intellectual thread running through it. So, storytelling rappers, but that's when I was younger. And then when I first got into rap, in my late teens, it was probably Notorious B.I.G. Eminem hadn't come out yet, but a few years later, I was definitely would have associated with him, and Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Black Thought, Pharoah Monch, storytelling rappers, people that really can use words to take you into their world. And I was studying lit at the time, right? So I'm reading Shakespeare and Chaucer and William Blake in school, and I'm listening to Notorious B.I.G. and Nas and KRS-One at home, and I was like, it's kind of all the same thing, it's all rhyme storytelling. We need to put it all together into, it's like the oral tradition, the resurrection of the oral tradition in rap. That's what my first songs were all about, was how rap is a new form of literature.
So now, who inspires you now, from, I guess, mainstream kind of artists to more underground, but rappers that maybe most people would recognize? Who are you pulling inspiration from?
I'm a big fan of J. Cole. I think he's a very eloquent lyricist. Kendrick Lamar, obviously, and I listen to a little Drake every now and then. He's got some bars. Those are pretty well-known rappers. Underground, I really like Run the Jewels, and Homeboy Sandman is a hell of a lyricist. And then, I'm friends with a bunch of rappers here in New York who are not household names, but are also extremely talented. So I've started collaborating with some of them more recently. MC Abdominal is one. Abdominal's Toronto-based, and Mega Ran, and Nathan DeFore and Jam Young. If you check out some of my social feeds, you'll see me posting videos from rappers that I collaborate with here in New York.
If you could collaborate with any artist, who would you want to work with?
That's a great question.
Yes.
Wow, like Pie in the Sky.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I would have to say Nas, I guess. I mean, ever since I first heard Nas as a teenager, I just thought he was like, the epitome of poetic lyricism, and he's still in the game. He's still making great music. So Nas, if you're listening, let's do a science track.
So do you feel like what you're putting out right now is more old school or new school?
I mean, I think I'm always going to be old school in a way. I kind of cut my teeth on 90s and era, 2000s. Yep. Yeah, it's there's something about like the rap you absorb when you're learning to rap. I enjoy the contemporary style, the sort of more like trap, lean style flows that are happening now. Mumble rap, it's less interpretable than it used to be, maybe, but I understand that a lot of people just want to listen to rap to like party and get a feeling, and it doesn't matter so much like paying attention to analyzing every single lyric. So I don't know. I'm a fan of hip hop in general. Like, there's no kind of rap I don't like, but there's a kind of rap that I feel more at home with, and that's more like boom bap, 90s era hip hop for sure.
Your latest album, Bright Future, came out recently. What is your favorite song on the album and why?
Wow, now you're making me choose between my babies. My babies. Okay, let's go with Cloud Feedback. There's a track called Cloud Feedback. I wish I could play it for you right now, but we don't have the feed. But basically, it's about climate change. And it's not just like we need to solve climate change, let's all become environmentalists. It's like, how do scientists understand and predict exactly how much warming will result from how much emissions? And it turns out clouds play a huge role in the uncertainty because they reflect heat down, they reflect light up, they're kind of have sometimes a warming and sometimes a cooling role depending on how high they are, and their role changes depending on how warm it gets. It turns out to be vastly complex. So a cloud climate scientist reached out to me and said, could you explain the cloud feedback effects on climate sensitivity in a rap song? And I was like, oh yeah, of course. It took me like 5 rewrites to get the song right. I kept sending him drafts and he'd be like, no, it doesn't quite work that way. And then he'd send me another paper and I'd be like, rewrite the whole thing. But it's a finished track. It was peer reviewed. The scientist said, you got it right. This is the state of human knowledge on this complex task to understand this. And I'm proud of it, and I also just think it really bumps as a track. It features a singer, a Fijian singer named Skills that I met in Australia on tour a few years ago, and he sent me all the parts, recorded them over there and stuff. So yeah, check it out.
Tell us a little bit more about your project, Event Rap. What was the inspiration behind it?
Well, the inspiration was necessity is the mother of invention, because when the pandemic hit, I was like, what am I supposed to do now? 2019, I did like 130 live shows on stages for people buying tickets. And that was my whole income, was just gigging. And I know lots of artists that are the same. And I was like, wait till the pandemic's over, I guess. And I started doing some Zoom gigs where I would sit in on a meeting or a lecture or a conference, and I would write a song really fast, listening to what everyone said and like writing down all their quotes and their names. And then I'd perform the song at the end. And I started getting booked to do this like quite often, and it basically is how I made a living all through the pandemic while I barely left my house. And I at the end of that sort of most of a year process, reached out to a bunch of artists I knew and said, would you be interested in doing custom writing projects where I'll say, like, you have to write a song on this topic, or you have to write a song in 3 hours at this event, or you have to freestyle about these words that people give you, as a way to make virtual meetings just more energized and more engaging. And we've all experienced Zoom fatigue, so I founded this company called Event Rap, and I signed up a dozen artists to deliver the same kind of services. And we're just rolling out. It's pretty exciting. There's a bunch of new videos that the artists have all produced, and the artists they keep most of the income from it. And then there's an overhead, and anybody can commission a rap on any topic or have a rapper show up at their event and rap about whatever you tell us the topic. We'll bring the creativity.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. So you went from planting 1 million trees in Canada to becoming a rapper. How did that all come about?
Well, while I was planting trees, which was my summer job for about 10 years, I was also going to college, and I was a literature nerd, and I used to rap while planting. So, it's a very repetitive job. Maybe some people watching right now have done it as a summer job, and you're out there all day, 8 hours a day, plant the tree, take 3 steps, plant the tree, take 3 steps, and I would just rap along, to that rhythm all day, scheming on how I could have an unusual lane in hip hop. And then I guess in 2003 I graduated from my master's degree, and I was like, okay, I'm not tree planting anymore, I'm not school anymore, I'm just gonna rap. And it's all I've done since 2004, is sort of take that foundation and bring it into new domains of how you can do rap and how you can make it work and what you can make it be about.
Is there a social issue or scientific inquiry that's inspiring you right now?
Well, I think, I don't know if inspiring is the right word, but, invigorating me is the challenge of how to bring people together around common knowledge. Because it seems like everything gets more and more fragmented with each year that goes forward. Mm-hmm. People are in their echo chambers and they only agree with their friends, and they're yelling at each other on social media. And one of the things that always really inspired me about science is that it's supposed to be true findings that are universally true, no matter who you are, who your friends are, what your politics are, etc. So, there are major fact disagreements between people that disagree over politics or religion or social justice issues or anything like that. But for me, I really am impassioned by science communication and by bringing people together around the facts, because I think science tells a story of us being part of one universal human family with very similar experiences and joys and fears and aspirations, and really the potential to overcome differences that are petty disagreements and embrace the universal human story. So that's what I'm trying to do with my work, and whether that's a song I write or with event rap or anything, it's like, messages that matter and bring the facts to the table and try to unite people around them when we agree on them and understand them.
What can you see yourself writing about next? I know you just released a new album, so all those ideas are probably pretty fresh in your mind, but do you have any inspiration right now about something you might want to work on in the future, besides the commissioned work?
Yeah, well, besides the commissioned work, is hard for me to envision because it keeps me really busy, and it's really just become, my whole lane is who can I find to collaborate with. The idea, like, I haven't released an album that I just sat down and made on any topic I felt like for more than 10 years at this point. But I do have a new commissioned work that I'm excited about that I could tell you about. Okay. It's not 100% confirmed, but it looks likely because several songs were requested recently about mental health and psychiatry and psychological disorders, or whether we call them disorders or whether they're just extreme expressions of natural human emotions, however that's framed. I think like destigmatizing mental health and putting it in a scientific context so that this is not a demon possession thing. This is things about how the human brain works, how it interacts with an environment, and paths to greater wellness. I'm excited to tackle it. I did one song about it a few years ago called Feelings for Reasons. There's a music video out. I tried to delve into the sort of basic science of mental health and causes of mental illness, and I'm really excited to take a deep dive. It looks like I have a few people now ready to work with me on that, and yet another domain of science that I think a greater understanding of the research could lead to much greater human well-being and happiness and wellness all around. So let's go there.
Well, I know that a lot of artists struggle with mental illness, and a lot of artists have released songs about different mental illnesses that they've struggled with. Are you going to be pulling from that at all? I know like Eminem was featured on a song about some mental illness he might have. There's a lot of other rappers who've rapped about it. So are you going to be pulling from that? And can you reference any that you've been kind of looking at right now?
I think the way that I would is there's a scientific literature I'll review, and then I'll find out what's the story I'm trying to tell, and then I'll look to hip hop and say, like, who has already delved into these topics, who has been transparent about anxiety. I like, there's a Kanye's been very open about having bipolar disorder, and sort of talking about how he takes it as a superhuman strength, and it's like a fuel that drives him when he's in some of his states, and in other states he tries to more go to ground. And so what I would probably do is like reach to the catalogs of various artists that have talked about mental illnesses that they've struggled with, and then use that as like a relatability framework for the science. Basically, like, what's going on in Kanye's brain when he's having a bipolar episode this way or that way, when he's like, I'm gonna run for president, manic, or when he's like, this stuff ain't worth it, I'm quitting, on the depressive side. And what are the sort of neurochemical signatures of those two brain states, and how do people treat it, and find a path to wellness if that's their thing that they're struggling with. I haven't gone quote mining for mental illness references in rap, but you're right, there's a ton of them, isn't there?
Yes. Do you think that you're going to get any lashback, especially with that project? Because I know that people with mental illness, regardless of what it is, it's kind of like a spectrum. So people might be more in some areas, less in other areas. And do you think that people might get misrepresented if it just really bluntly rapped about?
Well, I think if the project was for me to just pronounce about it without doing a lot of homework about what I'm talking about, then there would potentially be backlash. But my goal with each of these projects is I find a satisfactory interpretation of the literature that is really like, this is the state of the science of this. And it might not be settled. It might be like, these are the domains we understand. These are the domains that we're still waiting for good evidence on. And then that's what I have to represent. And then, I have a bunch of backup, basically. If people get upset, then I didn't do my job right. Because I'm just trying to say, if you're interested in what the science says on this topic, I have some great findings that I can share with you, and they will relate to human experiences in these ways. And I would probably get some advice from people that would consult on the lived experience side of mental illness as well. But I've delved in the past. I did a song about cystic fibrosis a few years ago, and I'm not a cystic fibrosis sufferer myself, but I talked about what the science of it is and how we understand it, and what are the symptoms that are really giving people a difficult time if they're living with it, and how can science help us see through. And there's a whole bunch of people that are commenting on the YouTube video like, thank you for helping me understand my disease better. And that's really what I'm trying to, that's what I'm here trying to do.
Just bring awareness.
Yeah, that's it. And awareness that, that the research matters, that people are really investigating these questions in a methodical way. And it's not arbitrary. It's like there, new medicines, new treatments. Maybe there's like a genetic, there's a gene therapy treatment that for cystic fibrosis that comes out. And wouldn't people want to see that coming and understand how it relates to their experience, or even like, the origin side? That's why I do a lot of stuff about evolution in a lot of my songs, because I think evolution will sort of help you understand the story of how something came to be, regardless of how it is right now. So, the song I did about cystic fibrosis was, how did cystic fibrosis evolve as a genetic disorder? That's what it is. If you get a certain gene, then you have it. And, that's kind of bad luck, like shuffling the cards. But if it causes your life to be shorter, how would that gene ever spread? Evolution would disfavor it, but there's actually ways, because it hitches a ride with other genes, that can help people be like, oh, this is not some curse. I'm not being singled out by the gods to be punished or whatever. This is like a legacy of my ancestry as part of the human species. And I think there is a similar story to tell about when there's a genetic component to mental illness as well. And of course, a lot of mental illness is going to be triggered by environmental circumstances like pandemics, right? Like the situation really can tip people over when they're on the edge in lots of cases. And what can you do to take care of yourself and make it less likely that you spiral into an episode if you're on the spectrum in whatever position on it. Yeah.
How do you deal with criticism? Because I know you touch on some topics people might feel very strong about. How do you deal with that criticism?
Well, if I offend people unexpectedly, then I will usually apologize, because my goal is to not do that. I'm really like, that's kind of my benchmark, is I'm trying never to be unintentionally offensive. But of course, as an artist, you have to be intentionally offensive sometimes.
Provocative, yes.
Exactly, to provoke thought. And I'm from the tradition of like, the Jonathan Swift and A Modest Proposal and the Oscar Wilde tradition of like, say something outrageous so that people start getting indignant and offended, and then you can cause them to turn a lens back on themselves and recognize that some aspect of their offendedness might be somewhat hypocritical, and that actually really is an effective way to get people to think outside of their own silo. So I will be offensive, and I will really try to only be offensive on purpose for a very specific artistically designed reason. And when I mess that up, then I usually say, my bad.
So if you could change anything about yourself, your younger self, what would it be in regard to the way that you rap or how you sourced information, for example? What would that be?
Well, I think the science thing I came to a little bit late. Like, I was rapping for about 10 years before I really started doing it, and since I started doing it, it's just really been this like powerful source of inspiration and purpose for me. So I might have told my younger self to start looking at that earlier, to pay more attention to science in college instead of just wanting to read poetry all day, and think about ways to tell the stories of science earlier. But maybe then things wouldn't have unfolded as they did, and they unfolded in a pretty positive way. So I don't know. I maybe I'll just tell my younger self it'll all work out, because this seemed like a fairly improbable path for me to embark on as a teenager. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a rapper, and it's going to be all academic and literature and big ideas and philosophy kind of stuff. Oh yeah, that's going to work great, right? I'll have a really successful career. It's seemed like a long shot then, and it seems like a long shot now. But I'm pretty happy with what I get to do for a living every day.
Now, you've been in the rap game field for some time now, and you've gotten the chance to work on some really exciting projects. What project is your favorite?
Well, I mean, it's pretty hard to beat the Rap Guide to Evolution. I did one kind of like the Legacy of Charles Darwin show and album, and that was my first science communication project. And, it's the reason I'm here. I'm here in New York right now. I moved here 10 years ago because that show got optioned to perform off Broadway, and I did like 110 shows off Broadway with like a big billboard and my name and lights, and got to rock the show for like 10,000 people that year. And I got to perform it with Stephen Hawking. He was on stage giving a lecture, and then I came on like right after him and did my evolution rap, and then freestyled about him, and he was like watching from his wheelchair on the side of the stage in the wings. It brought me to some really exciting places and helped me sort of connect with a whole network of scientists and science advocates that has fueled the whole rest of each project that I take on. So, if you want to see where it all started, look up the Rap Guide to Evolution. It's still out there.
Where can you see yourself 10 years from now? I know that you've come a long way. Every 10 years, I feel like for you, it's something different. So where can you see yourself in 10 years?
Well, I mean, I'm really excited by this event rap thing right now. I kind of feel like, to be honest, I'm a little disillusioned with the sort of standard rap game. You like try to get signed by a record label, and you try to release lots of music, and try to get some label to pay for it if you can, or and it just feels like it's very hierarchical. Like, there's a few artists that really make a lot of money from rap, and there's a ton of artists that are super talented that don't make much money from rap. So with Event Rap, which is a company that I just founded and I'm building, and it's got a dozen artists now, but the more work I can generate for the artists, the more artists I can sign to the platform. I really want to just work on this and see how much new content my artists can produce, paid for by people that care about the topic. So the Event Rap team, one of them did a rap about the philosophy of stoicism and how it can help you cope with modern life. And one of them did a song about the ecology of tree canopies. And one of them did a song about freedom of the printing press. And one of them did a song about machine consciousness. And they're getting paid to write songs about these diverse topics. And they're getting paid by a backer, a commissioner who's like, this is the thing I wish there was a rap about. Here's some further reading so you can get your hands on it. And then the rapper just gets to write their own song and say what they want about it, and they own the product at the end. And I'm really excited about this as a business model, as a way to sort of change how the rap game works, frankly. And I just want to bring more and more artists into it, and see how far we can take it, see how many songs and videos and albums we can produce outside of the normal channels of the underground pipeline, from aspiring artist to signed artist to platinum artist. That pipeline to me looks like it has a huge wide funnel at the beginning and a tiny little pinprick at the end in terms of which artists get through it. And they talk about leaky pipelines, right? Like who starts studying a topic and who ends up quitting halfway. And rap has one of the leakiest pipelines I've ever seen. And I founded Event Rap because I want to try to broaden that pipeline and have more diverse artists and voices and talent. The talent pool needs to be expanded, and they all got to stay working and stay making money from rap. So that's what I want to do in 10 years. It's like forget Uber Eats. We're making Uber raps, and you can commission a rap on any topic, and I want it to be huge.
So could you make a rap potentially right now about anything?
Absolutely. Anything at all. You give me the topic, I'll give you the freestyle.
Okay, so I'm going to say Tag TV, Julia Cosby. We're going to say man who ate a burger every day for a year. And I guess maybe you can pick the last one.
Okay. Do you have a favorite animal?
Oh gosh. I love umbrella cockatoos.
Umbrella cockatoos.
Yes.
All right, let's do this. Yeah. Let's rock that beat right in there. Yo, Baba Brinkman. Yeah, my thoughts deep, but not as deep as Miss Julia Cosby. That's right, I hip-hop and I boast, but I'm not like her as like a television host. Oh my god, she makes it seem so easy when she's the anchor on here, Tag TV. Yeah, that's how it goes, that's right, I never drag my knuckles like a Cro-Magnon. No, I just tag other rappers with the hashtags. I rap brag, yeah, can't you see I've got that mad swag? Oh my god, I'm rocking any idea. I'm like that man who ate a freaking burger every year. Yeah, that's right. You could take that and just quote it. A burger every year, that man must be bloated. Oh my god, yo, that's the best, y'all. Except he must have mad jacked up cholesterol. It's how it goes, it's how it goes. I rock the groove, I'm in the mood, just like a cockatoo. Yeah, that's right, I rock the same chorus, but I can't remember the exact specific name for it. You're all down with your species, mad naming them. That's the nomenclature, I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying anything you throw at me, I could probably just flip into an ill dope rap beat. Well, tell me again, what was the cockatoo? I remembered cockatoo, but not the first. Umbrella cockatoo.
Umbrella cockatoo, but that was those topics were so unrelated. I'm amazed that you're able to put them together because they're so different. But oh my goodness, I know that you're very busy and I know that you have many other raps to write, so I'm going to let you go and continue doing that. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
It was really my pleasure, Julia. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Inbox with Julia Cosby on Tag TV.